Amazing ultrasound revealed a hidden truth after a poor girl's accident. This billionaire's INS. The headlines screamed out like sirens, and Mia Thompson barely had the breath to comprehend the whirlwind around her. All she could register was the blinding light of the hospital room and the urgent rustle of doctors' scrubs. She was jolted back into her reality, a blank slate where fear, confusion, and pain mingled. She wanted to escape the labels that defined her: the straight-A student, the daughter of a struggling waitress. But here, drowning in uncertainty, she felt a new one looming: the billionaire's daughter. The thought twisted like a knife in her gut. As her body lay immobile, thoughts raced through her mind. How could she reconcile who she'd always been with this newfound identity? The idea of wealth felt like gravity, pulling her in a direction she'd never asked to go. What would her friends think? She'd spent years proving herself on the merit of hard work alone. They'd never understood her challenges, and now they'd see her through the lens of privilege. The words trust fund echoed in the silence, searing edges of shame into her pride. Her mother's anxious face flickered in her memory. She was waiting in a sterile corner of the hospital, consumed with dread. What have I done? Mia muttered under her breath, a swell of guilt rising like bile in her throat as she considered her mother's sacrifices. What about the days spent sacrificing little luxuries so that Mia could focus on school, the nights spent worrying about bills? Would her successes now diminish those struggles, turn them transparent in the eyes of the world? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the overwhelming weight of uncertainty fresh in her mind, her anger began to boil over. Could she allow David Sinclair to walk back into her life, seeing her as a reflection of his success rather than an individual? There was a gnawing resentment bubbling to the surface. The man she'd never known was now a lifeline tethered to her by blood, yet potentially a chain shackling her to expectations. Responsibility felt like a noose around her neck. Would he expect her to fit into a mold of opulence? Mia clenched her fists under the crisp hospital sheets. No. This was how her story was meant to unfold. She could fight against the tide of fame and wealth pressing upon her, carve out a space where her achievements meant something, untouched by monetary heritage. But what if she faltered? What if she failed to detach herself from the image of that girl in the headlines? The suffocating pressure grew, spiraling into a tempest of dread, yet still igniting a flicker of rebellion deep inside her. Just as the thought of acceptance raised its head, a shocking revelation from her mother clawed its way into her consciousness, a long-buried truth with the power to unravel everything she fought to hold together. What lay ahead? Which path would she tread, and would it ultimately lead her towards freedom or a gilded cage? The stakes were impossible to ignore, and the silence surrounding her felt deafening, marking the brink of a choice that could alter the course of her life forever. Mia's heart raced as memories crawled to the surface, each moment tinted with an unsettling mixture of hope and fear. It wasn't just about her newfound identity, it was about unraveling the truth that had been kept from her for so long. What was it that her mother had hidden? The sheer weight of the unknown felt like a suffocating blanket, wrapping around her thoughts, constricting her ability to think clearly. When the nurse entered the room with a reassuring smile, it felt dishearteningly distant. "You're doing well, Mia. We'll have you up in no time." The words held little comfort. Mia longed to resolve the turmoil inside her, but the process felt unjustly stretched and distorted. Each gentle reminder of her physical state also echoed her internal chaos. She turned toward the window, the world outside a vibrant contrast to her sterile prison. The sunlight filtered through the glass, promising a warmth she felt far from achieving. If only she could step outside, if only she could find clarity in the chaos. But the thought of facing a world with this new aspect of herself connected to a billionaire, to wealth made her stomach churn. As decisions loomed, Mia's mind grappled with ideas of accountability. What would it mean to step forward? To claim her identity, both the legacy filled with privilege and the hard-earned endeavor she had fought for? Could she do justice to her mother's sacrifices while forging her path? She resolved to confront her mother. The question weighed heavily: why had this truth been buried? A fire ignited within her. Anger propelled her forward, and determination coursed through her veins. She would not hide behind her father's name or allow the notion of wealth to warp her reality. She would demand answers that could illuminate the darkness surrounding her life, reclaiming her narrative from the shadows of headlines. That evening, when her mother finally entered the room, Mia's heart sank. Her mom's frail figure against the backdrop of the stark hospital walls seemed like a haunting reminder of what was at stake. Tears welled in her mother's eyes, mixing remorse with a flicker of defiance. Mia steeled herself, knowing this was the moment. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demanded, surprisingly steady. The simple question hung in the air, a challenge and a plea for honesty layered in vulnerability. "About him. About us." Her mother flinched, the room heavy with unsaid words. "I thought protecting you would keep you safe of this world." "Safe?" Mia interrupted, barely containing the rage fueling her voice. "This world isn't just about wealth. It's your choice to shield me that created this mess. Now I don't even know who I am anymore." The silence thickened, her mother's shoulders sagging under the weight of Mia's words. A battle of strong wills unfolded as they faced each other, revealing the chasm that had formed between them. Mia's mother took a deep breath. "You need to understand, sweetheart, your father, he made decisions that affected us all. I thought it was for the best." Mia shook her head, the depth of her mother's reasoning culminating into a paradox: protection versus truth. "But what about my choice? What if I want to meet him? To understand where I come from?" Her mother's gaze widened, a mixture of surprise and fear flickering like a spark. "You can't rush into this. You don't know what you're asking for." But with that rebellion ignited within her, the path ahead twisted into sharp focus. The collision between her past and the possibility of a new future was inevitable. Standing on the precipice of her destiny, Mia felt the pull toward a life laden with new significance, even if it frightened her to her core. The next folding chapter marked an unforeseen confrontation: her father's existence, a decision she could no longer delay. But would meeting him fulfill her quest for identity, or plunge her deeper into uncertainty? Mia lay back against the hospital pillow, the sterile scent of antiseptic swirling around her as she pivoted her thoughts inward, the confrontation with her mother playing on repeat. Each word hung heavy, but it also crystallized her resolve. She needed to take control of her narrative, to understand her lineage on her own terms. The upcoming meeting with her father loomed over her, a daunting shadow she could no longer ignore. Days passed in a murky blend of mundane recovery routines and mounting anticipation. With every ticking hour, Mia painted a clearer picture of who she wanted to be. The idea of seeking her father became less about the longing for paternal approval and more about making sense of the shadow her mother's choices cast over her identity. A flat-screen TV flickered to life, and the newscaster's voice rang through the room, referencing her family's unspoken wealth. The hidden heiress, they called her, and that label felt like both a blessing and a curse. Mia's stomach knotted at the thought of being introduced to a life she had only glimpsed through news articles and social media. That life felt both alien and desirable. As she stared out the window at the sky's fading light, a fierce resolve settled in her chest. The world awaited her, not as a victim of her circumstances but as a woman defined by her choices. With determination ignited, she began crafting a plan. Meeting her father was just the first step. She needed to confront the new reality with courage rather than fear. She envisioned herself seated across from him, questions tumbling from her lips like a waterfall. What role had he played in her mother's decisions? Did he even know she existed? Pushing herself through the haze of physical recovery, Mia embraced each small victory as a testament to her growing strength. A focus regained, she educated herself about her father's empire, becoming familiar with financial terminology she previously shied away from. She browsed articles, consumed biographies, and immersed herself in the glitzy world strewn with privilege and responsibility. Every fact was a weapon in her arsenal of self-empowerment, challenging mischaracterizations of her identity as the poor little girl. Each gathered piece of knowledge helped solidify her intent. This was not just about meeting a father, it was about claiming her potential, her rights to forge a life unshackled by misunderstandings. Conversations with the hospital staff turned into dialogue sessions about ambition and resilience. The kind female nurse, who became somewhat of a confidant, often remarked, "Mia, you have a fire in you. Don't let fear extinguish it." Those words drilled deeper than her medical treatment, they choreographed a silent dance between her past and the beckoning future. But underlying this burgeoning confidence was a tempest of anxiety. Mia started questioning the possible outcomes. What if her father turned out to be everything her mother warned against? What if his world swallowed her whole? Each night, the doubts crept in like an unwelcome fog, whispering distorted possibilities. Still, Mia pressed on. The countdown to their meeting became a commitment not just to him but to herself, a chance to carve out her identity in a narrative that was once so much larger than life. Finally, as the calendar circled the day marked by her impending meeting, she felt a sense of palpable urgency coursing through her. As she transitioned from fragile to fierce, Mia recognized that this was only the beginning. Just as she had built her strength, she would also forge her standing in a world that may not eagerly welcome her. With resolve hardening her spirit, Mia had no intention of retreating. Each day was no longer one of recovery, it was rehearsal for a performance that was hers to conduct. She would walk into that meeting with her head held high, ready to gather pieces of her fragmented identity, battleground and sanctuary of potential. The thought of her father made her pulse quicken in a mix of excitement and dread. The moment of clarity was closing in on her, but beyond the immediate confrontation lurked challenges she could barely begin to fathom. What awaited her on the other side of this encounter would not only determine her next step but could unveil haunting truths about not just her father, but herself. With that thought echoing in her mind, Mia prepared to face the soft whisper of uncertainty and the loud roar of ambition colliding at last. Mia stood on the precipice of dramatic change, the heavy weight of anticipation settling in her stomach as her eyes flickered to the wall clock, each tick amplifying her racing heart. Today, she would meet her father, a man she hardly knew but felt an overwhelming urge to confront. Despite the chill of uncertainty wrapping around her, there was an undeniable thrill buzzing beneath the surface. Recording her thoughts in a journal had become a ritual, a way to delegate her swirling emotions into something tangible. As she sat at the small hospital desk, she filled page after page with questions meant for him. How deeply have your choices affected me? What does family mean to you? Paradoxically, putting pen to paper stilled the chaos within her. Her metamorphosis felt monumental. Gone was the uncertainty that had once threatened to envelop her, at least for this moment. She cracked the spine of a financial memoir, one that could provide insight into her father's world, and inhaled the sharp scent of printed pages, grounding her in purpose. The complexities of wealth intrigued her, understanding the nuances of investments and corporate maneuvering offered her a glimpse into a life filled with both opportunity and expectation. Yet self-doubt still lingered like faint echoes. What if he dismissed her as a mere curiosity? Would she be just an anomaly in his well-structured world? The thought left her trembling with a mix of indignation and anxiety. Eventually, as the sun dipped, casting long shadows across the room, Mia summoned memories of the times when she had felt out of place. Those moments had been fraught with insecurity, but now they forged her resolve. She wasn't just a girl seeking acceptance, she was a woman ready to confront her past and build a future on her own terms. Mia dressed deliberately, donning a tailored blazer that screamed sophistication, with a hint of rebellion in its bold color. The reflection in the mirror revealed someone she barely recognized, a woman imbued with a sense of purpose rather than just a girl molded by her circumstances. The fabric felt like affirmative armor against the storm brewing inside her, and with each deep breath, she fortified her will. Arriving at the high-rise office building, she absorbed the hum of affluence that buzzed around her. Mia felt like a character in a law drama, staring up at the towering structure that represented a lifestyle she had only glimpsed. She had read the financial reports, analyzed market trends, but nothing had prepared her for this palpable aura of success that seemed to infiltrate the air. The receptionist's polite smile felt almost mocking. She wondered how many others had come through those doors, hoping to connect with loved ones locked away behind layers of corporate glass. When her name was finally called, she walked with a precarious sway between fear and anticipation, the two emotions jostling in her chest as she made her way down the corridor. As she entered the meeting room, her father's presence commanded attention even before she laid eyes on him. He leaned casually against the conference table, his demeanor relaxed yet inherently authoritative. There was power in his posture, but as she studied his features, a sense of familial recognition washed over her, those same piercing eyes, the slight curl of his lips. This man was a stranger, yet painfully familiar. "Hi, Mia," he said, his voice smooth but edged with caution. She nodded, the room teeming with unspoken emotions. "Can we talk?" The words slipped out before she had a chance to weigh their gravity. She wasn't here for trivial pleasantries, they were suspended in a moment charged with potential confrontation. His expression shifted from surprise to acceptance as he gestured toward a seat at the table. Taking her place across from him was emblematic of her resolve. There were no more preconceptions of being a hidden heiress or a lost daughter. This was her chance to confront the man who had played a part in her story and claim her space. As she began to voice her questions, she prepared herself for the answers that could shatter or clarify her foundation. What lay ahead in this exchange could redefine her path. With the meeting now underway, Mia felt the tension drop into silence, a heavy, desperate silence that hung in the air between them. What truths awaited her beneath the polished surface of calmness? Unbeknownst to Mia, she was not only about to confront her father but also the hidden layers of her own identity tied to him, a newfound sense of belonging that could either empower her or unravel everything she had built. As Mia sat across from her father, the weight of unspoken words felt stifling. His eyes, sharp and assessing, studied her as she tried to gather the fragments of her courage. The conference room felt both sterile and intimidating, a testament to the world she longed to understand yet feared to enter. The stark contrast between their lives rendered every silence heavier, every breath deeper. "What did you want to talk about?" he asked, breaking the stillness. The casual tone belied the gravity of the moment, but Mia seized it as an opening. "I want to know why you weren't there," she began, her voice steady despite the tumult within. "Why did you choose your career over being a father?" The question hung between them like an uninvited guest, bold and unwelcome. In that moment, Mia felt a surge of empowerment as she dared to lift the veil on their fragile relationship. Her father's gaze darkened, clouds of emotion swirling behind his calm exterior. "I had to provide," he replied, almost defensively, as if rehearsed. "I had responsibilities." "Responsibilities?" The word slipped out, splintered with disbelief. "You mean responsibilities to yourself and your empire? What about the emotional responsibilities?" His expression faltered for a split second, and Mia caught a flicker of vulnerability that gave her a rush of momentum. For so long, she had envisioned this confrontation, rehearsed her words as if she were about to deliver a soliloquy. Now, she was in the arena, and the stakes became tangible. "We were never poor, Mia. I thought you'd be fine without me," he asserted, his voice rising defensively. "I provided a luxurious life for you. What else was I supposed to do?" "Maybe I didn't want luxury, I just wanted a father," she shot back, frustration boiling beneath the surface. With each sentence, she felt layers of resentment peel away, exposing truths she'd hidden even from herself. She had spent too long crafting a narrative where his absence didn't hurt. With every choice you made, you taught me how to be self-sufficient, she continued, her voice growing firm. But you also taught me that success doesn't equal happiness. Mia's heart raced, but beneath her anger was clarity. She had been conflating affection with achievement for far too long. His choices didn't just impact her, they had shaped her understanding of relationships and trust. In this encounter, it was not just her father she sought to confront, it was her own acceptance of that influence. Her father leaned back, the confidence that once defined him now wavering. "I never thought it would come to this," he muttered, his voice dropping almost to a whisper. "And yet here we are," Mia responded, a mixture of triumph and vulnerability coursing through her. It was uncomfortable yet liberating. "It's time for us to lay our cards on the table. No more platitudes, just the truth." A long silence ensued as they both sat in their stark reality, absorbing the weight of potential upheaval. With her heart pounding and her mind racing, Mia planned her next words carefully. She needed to explore what acceptance with or without his approval really meant for her life. "What you've accomplished doesn't have to define us," she suggested, softening, though her determination remained resolute. "I want to create my own path, but I need to know you'll be a part of it honestly." Her father sighed, the walls around his heart cracking just a fraction. "And if you don't like what you find?" "I won't know until I listen," she stated plainly, anxiety twisting into a fierce resolve. Maybe understanding him was a pathway to understanding herself, but it was fraught with uncertainty. What would that understanding reveal? Could she find closure in the very act of confronting years of silence? As she grappled with these questions, Mia sensed the precariousness of their bond. It was littered with possibilities, each choice tiptoeing on the brink of transformation. As the silence resumed, both knew there was much more to unravel. The next words could either fortify or fracture their tentative connection. Would he take the plunge into the depths of their shared history, or would he retreat, solidifying the barriers Mia craved to dismantle? With a breath, Mia sensed she was on the edge of not only discovering her father's truths but reshaping her own identity in the process. What revelations lay beneath these layers of misunderstanding? Would they chart a new course together or drift apart once more? Mia felt the air grow even thicker, the silence amplifying the weight of vulnerability that hung between them. She had laid her cards on the table, yet an unsettling doubt flickered in the back of her mind. What if her father clung tighter to his defenses? What if this moment unraveled into another argument, another closed door? Her father's jaw tightened, and for a heartbeat, it seemed he might pivot back into the familiar realm of avoidance. But instead, he leaned slightly forward, resting his elbows on the table, a hint of resignation crossing his face. "You think you understand me?" he challenged softly, a quiver of uncertainty in his voice. "I don't know you at all," Mia admitted, shaking her head. "That's part of the problem. But I want to." He inhaled deeply, and his eyes darted to the vast window overlooking the city skyline. The sun hung low, casting an orange glow against the glass, a stark contrast to their gray conversation. It felt symbolic somehow, the light flickering through layers of reflection. He seemed to be wrestling with his thoughts, an internal battle she felt uncomfortably placed in the midst of. "What you don't get, Mia, is that it wasn't just ambition," he said, regaining his composure. "It was survival. I had my own demons." The weight of his admission was heavy, each word sinking deeper into the ground she used to view with resentment. The more she listened, the more that familiar ache shifted. Maybe it was not just about him anymore, perhaps it was about them both confronting their respective pasts. "What demons?" she inquired, meeting his gaze head-on. The challenge now was to maintain this fragile momentum, to push for authenticity without shattering the tentative connection they were building. "That's not something I wanted to burden you with," he started, but his voice quavered. The argument he had rehearsed began to crack. "I didn't want my failures as a father to be the foundation of your life." Mia's heart surged. This was new territory. She realized then that much of her anger stemmed from not just his absence but from her perceived narrative of what it meant to be successful. In their confined definition of success, they traded love and emotional depth for financial security. "So you thought protecting me meant remaining distant?" she asked, her voice softer now yet firm. "But in doing so, you left me with questions that have always haunted me." "Questions?" He smirked, though it was tinged with bitterness. "I thought I was being pragmatic. We can't choose our paths based solely on emotions. Yet here we are, grappling with both." She allowed herself a moment to reframe her own conflicted feelings, recognizing that striving for approval had been her own fortress. "What if I told you that I'm tired of living under the shadow of your accomplishments? I need to find my own worth, even if it doesn't align with your expectations." "Then you'll fail," he countered, crossing his arms defensively, yet his voice hinted at a faint tremor. Mia felt the knot in her stomach churn. Would he prefer to keep her tethered to a past that suffocated her aspirations? "What if I succeed in a way you never imagined?" she pressed, her determination propelling the conversation forward. "What if my greatest achievement isn't in balancing the ledger but in living fully?" A long pause followed, and in that silence, she sensed the possibility of transformation, both for him and for herself. "Your mother once told me that love comes with both risk and reward," he said slowly, the wall between them finally showing cracks. "I guess I thought not risking would keep you safe." His revelation felt like a turning point. Perhaps she no longer needed to confront him alone, they could traverse the boundaries of their past together, albeit shakily. With her voice steady, she ventured, "Let's rewrite this together. I want to understand you so I can understand myself." As they faced one another, the air tinged with renewed potential, Mia felt layers of tension slowly peeling back. But could she peel back enough to uncover the things they both feared? Mia sensed the shift, but it left her wondering what hidden truths awaited them in the maze of their history, and would they be ready to confront those dark corners together? As light spilled into the room, she felt the gravity of revelation drawing closer, the reckoning looming ahead. What truths would finally emerge, now that both were willing to listen? The moment hung in the air like an unfinished sentence, a fragile truce hovering between Mia and her father. As she breathed in the tension, she could feel her body responding, a deep exhale that began to release the knot in her chest. She'd spent years burying her feelings to fit into the mold her father had created, but now there was a chance to reshape that mold altogether. "Rewriting," her father echoed, a faint glimmer of skepticism flickering in his eyes. "How do you intend to rewrite something that has been built on years of silence and distance?" Mia pondered his question, marshalling her thoughts. It wasn't just about their conversation, it was also about how she could reclaim her narrative, apart from the weight of her father's expectations. "By asking questions," she said finally, her voice steady. "By seeking the truth without the fear of what it might reveal. It's time to step out of our roles and explore who we are when we're not defined by past mistakes." His expression softened for a moment, but his guarded demeanor quickly returned. "You think it's that simple?" "Simple doesn't mean easy." She leaned forward, the edge of her determination sharpening. "I've spent too long trying to navigate my worth based on your achievements. Now, I need to navigate my own path, even if it's littered with uncertainty. Understanding you is part of that, but I'm also walking away from the ghost that's haunted me." Her father sat back, crossing his arms again, though this time more contemplatively. "And what if the truth is too painful?" "Then we face it," Mia replied, her resolve blossoming. "Together. I refuse to let fear dictate how I move forward any longer. I need to understand not just your struggle, but my own." As they continued the dialogue, each question unlocked a repetitive echo, Mia probing the reasons behind his choices, while he traced the backstories of his running away from emotional connection. New realization dawned on Mia as she listened to her father's rhetoric. His fears painted pictures of a man more afraid of failure than she had ever perceived. It was a revelation tinged with sadness. What would it take for you to trust that I can forge my own path? She asked, the question straddling both vulnerability and a quiet insistence. He hesitated, casting his gaze outside once more, seeking the city skyline for answers. The glow of the setting sun painted shadows on his face, as if the light was offering a revelation. Trust takes time, Mia. I've never been good at letting go, and I'm not sure I can. Mia felt a sting of frustration start to bubble within her, but she channeled it instead into empathy. Neither of us knows how to confront this, she admitted, but not trying feels like another failure to me. I want to build something new. Yes, but it's taken me a lifetime to build my walls. You can't just reorganize everything in one conversation, he protested, sounding a mix of defensive and earnest. Then let us do it piece by piece, Mia suggested, her spirit unyielding. Every honest conversation will fortify our connection, will dismantle those walls brick by brick. I need to know about your demons so that I can face my own. The weight of her words settled between them, creating a vivid contrast against the backdrop of the dying light. The air felt charged, almost electric. Demons, he muttered, almost to himself, the weight of acknowledgement finally resting on his shoulders. What if they're too overwhelming? Then we tackle them together, Mia replied, her voice unwavering in the face of his doubt. By understanding our struggles, we can break those chains that have held us in place for too long. A ripple of uncertainty passed through her father, but instead of retreating, he nodded slowly. It was a baby step, one that signaled more than just acceptance, it hinted at possibility. Perhaps they could align their aspirations alongside shared fears. But Mia knew the road was still fraught with challenges. As they sat in the dimming light, a new thought struck her. What if the very truths they uncovered were the very things that would force them apart again? Would they be able to withstand their most profound vulnerabilities when laid bare? As the last of the sunlight slipped below the horizon, the room felt cloaked in ambiguity. There was both hope and anxiety woven together, and Mia could sense the path ahead was only beginning to unfurl. What hidden truths would emerge next, and would they be ready to embrace or flee from them? The clatter of a distant train pulled Mia from her reverie as she stared blankly at the city skyline, now bathed in darkness. A mix of hope and trepidation swirled within her, the dialogue with her father simmering in her mind. The prospect of delving deeper into their shared struggles felt like standing on the precipice of a vast canyon, exhilarating yet daunting, with no clear trajectory for the leap. Tomorrow, she whispered to herself, determination sparking anew. Tomorrow, I will take another step forward. The following morning, as she brewed a strong cup of coffee, Mia reflected on their conversation's essence. It was clear her father's vulnerability peeled back layers of his stoic exterior, revealing a man shaped more by fear than by strength. Yet fear could be an ally, a catalyst for honest engagement if she navigated it carefully. That day at work, a breakthrough in her marketing strategy was overshadowed by her lingering thoughts about familial truths. Yet, there was something about the approach she had adopted with her father that revved her creativity. Instead of cookies-cutter campaigns, she began questioning their clients' true needs, diving beyond surface-level metrics. The feedback from her team was one of surprise. They hadn't seen Mia tackle a project with this level of passion. "What has gotten into you?" her colleague, Jenna, asked, a hint of admiration tinged with curiosity. Mia grinned, feeling the energy shift within her. "I'm learning the value of asking deeper questions about what we do and why we do it." Each word was a subtle acknowledgement of her evolution, unearthing her capacity to drive change not just professionally, but also personally. However, that night, lying in bed, doubts coiled around her resolve like vines. What if the deeper questions she was now comfortable posing threatened the stability she had built in her professional life? As her mind raced, it brought her back to her father. Could she apply the same principles of authenticity to her work relationships? The next day, fueled by fresh inspiration, she approached her manager, Tim, confident that he too would embrace a radical honesty in their workflow. "Can we reframe our approach to our communications with clients?" What if we create a more personal touch instead of sticking to the script? She watched him closely, ready for pushback, yet hopeful that her own introspection translated into their business strategy. Tim raised an eyebrow, interest piqued. Interesting. You're suggesting a personal approach? But isn't that risky? Mia felt a lingering trepidation flash through her. It mirrored the same uncertainties she sensed with her father. Risky, yes, but necessary, she asserted, focusing on her voice's steadiness. If we connect with our clients in a more meaningful way, we're building trust, much like what I'm trying to do with my family. The conversation evolved, confirming a shared understanding rather than a one-sided directive. As Tim mulled her proposition, Mia noted the flickers of enthusiasm in his expression. She was threading a path of innovation, expressing her beliefs in ways that could redefine their work landscape, just as she aspired to redefine her relationship with her father. But as she walked home that evening, the feeling of triumph was accompanied by an underlying anxiety. What if unleashing this new approach created a backlash? What if their clients resisted this shift? This tension mirrored her inner conflict about transparency with her father. Were the walls she intended to dismantle in her personal life being fortified by the very risks she was taking in her professional one? When she returned home, the tantalizing prospect of confronting more truths loomed large. Mia understood she had to brace herself for tomorrow with her father, another conversation, another chance to fortify their connection. She clutched her notebook tightly, a simmering eagerness to not just document thoughts but to transform her findings into actionable insights both in her work and her life. Tomorrow, she decided. Tomorrow her journey into the depths of both her father's fears and her own would resume. Unsure of what awaited them, she nevertheless felt a surge of resolve wash over her. Little did Mia know that just as she was unveiling layers of self-identity, the very foundations of her professional ambitions would begin to shake. How far could she push this personal evolution before it collided with her carefully constructed professional ambitions? Mia awoke with a sense of palpable anticipation swirling in her gut. Today was the day, she felt it in her bones. Armed with her notebook, she paced the kitchen as her coffee brewed, mentally rehearsing the conversation with her father. She had come too far to allow fear to dictate the narrative of their relationship. At work, the atmosphere buzzed more frantically than usual. As she stepped into the office, her colleagues buzzed with excitement over the pitch they were preparing for a high-profile client. Yet, beneath the external fervor, Mia's mind remained tethered to her personal mission. She couldn't shake the password to unlock deeper communication with both her father and her team. "Hey Mia." Jenna waved her over. "Ready to tackle this pitch together?" Mia smiled but felt the weight of her inner tumult. "Yeah, but can we think outside the box this time? What if we approach this pitch as a conversation instead of a formal presentation?" Jenna furrowed her brow, curiosity replacing the previous elation. "What do you mean?" Instead of detailing her concept, Mia decided to lead by example, opening the door to deeper dialogue. "Let us ask them what struggles they're facing and how we can truly help, instead of throwing numbers at them. What if trust could be our primary objective?" Jenna looked thoughtful, nodding slowly. "That's risky, but I see where you're going. Let us do it." They made preparations, weaving their pitch into a story rather than a bullet-pointed list. As Mia contributed to the evolving presentation, each suggestion unearthed a small thrill within her, a remnant of yesterday's boldness that was now merging seamlessly into her work identity. However, as the day drew closer to its climax, trepidation seeped back in. What if they failed? What if the clients didn't reciprocate the vulnerability she was attempting to evoke? This knot of anxiety intertwined with her concern about her impending conversation with her father. When the sun dipped low and her workday concluded, Mia felt a heaviness settle in her chest. The evening loomed like a shadow in her mind, and she prepped herself to engage with her father this time, not just as a daughter, but as a bridge between their pasts. As she arrived at her father's home, the familiar smell of his cooking wafted through the air. It jolted her into the moment, this was a safe space carved from years of shared meals and laughter. Yet, as she stepped inside, the past surged forward like a tidal wave. The house glowed warmly, but it felt almost suffocating. "Dad?" she called softly. He appeared from the kitchen, his usual smile hesitant today. "Hey, Mia. Everything okay?" "Actually, I wanted to talk," Mia ventured, squaring her shoulders. "About how we've handled things in the past, about how we need to change that." A flicker of uncertainty crossed her father's face, and Mia's pulse quickened. This was it. The risk beyond her work life was laid bare before her. Perhaps her approach would reveal the hard truths they both needed to confront. "Okay," he said, the warmth in his tone contradicting the tightness in his expression. "What's on your mind?" Mia took a breath, steeling herself. "I want to understand what drives us apart instead of letting it fester. I'm tired of the walls." She felt a stirring in her chest, a faint but growing confidence to face the truths she had long avoided. Her father's gaze softened as he shifted in his seat, his own internal battle visible in his eyes. The air thickened with possibilities, the chance for both of them to break free of years of silence and misunderstanding. But as they began to delve into the dialogue, Mia sensed a greater fear creeping in, the fear of what might be revealed. The shifting dynamics echoed her workplace changes, yet they felt infinitely more daunting. Would they emerge stronger, or would the confrontation crack all that was familiar? As they talked, the stakes felt higher than ever. Each word forged ahead into murky waters of vulnerability, and each revelation rippled through the fabric of their relationship. Just as Mia felt her footing strengthen, a single, unexpected silence fell between them. What secret lay hidden beneath the surface that could change everything? Mia and her father sat in the dimly lit kitchen, the air thick with unspoken truths. As Mia took a deep breath, allowing the weight of her resolve to settle her nerves, she realized this moment was transformational. She was no longer just the hidden heiress or the daughter seeking approval. She was standing strong as her own person, ready to challenge the legacy of silence that had defined their relationship for far too long. "Dad, I need to know how you really feel about us," she began, her voice steady yet vulnerable. "I want to understand the distance, the silence. I want to know our truth." Her words echoed, and each syllable bore the weight of years lost to misunderstanding and estrangement. Her father's eyes shimmered with uncertainty, and the moment hung delicately in the air. It was an invitation for honesty, one she hoped he would seize. "It's always been complicated, Mia," he sighed, looking away momentarily as if bracing himself against the tidal wave of emotions crashing around them. "My career, the choices I made, I thought they would ensure you had everything you'd need. But I didn't want things," Mia interjected, her passion igniting the room. "I wanted you. I wanted a father, not a bank account." The intensity of her revelation seemed to ignite a crack in his armor, exposing raw, unrefined emotions she sensed were buried deep within him. "Your mother," he hesitated, swallowing his words. Mia could see the ghosts of their past fluttering behind his eyes, the hesitance, the guilt, and perhaps an ounce of regret seeping forth. "She believed pushing you into the best opportunities would set you up for success, but she didn't understand the emotional toll of that absence." Mia's heart raced. This was the breakthrough she yearned for. "But we're here now, aren't we? Can't we build something new from this mess?" The invitation hung heavy between them, like a lifeline. Her father finally met her gaze, the walls around him beginning to crumble. Vulnerability mixed with fear created an electrifying tension. "I didn't know how to be the father you needed. I was fighting battles of my own, looking for validation in my career," he confessed, his voice thickening with emotion. "I thought it meant security for you." As she listened, Mia recognized the way their struggles intertwined. It wasn't just about her father's absence, it was a shared narrative of letting ambition overshadow connection, of loss in the name of success. "Together, we can redefine what it means to be family," she proposed, feeling the surge of possibility flash through her veins. Let us rewrite our story. He nodded slowly, still grappling with his internal conflict. It won't be easy, he warned, a cautious tremor in his tone. Nothing worth having ever is, Mia asserted, a sense of power igniting within her. But I want us to try authentically. The evening unfolded into a series of revelations. As her father divulged stories of his own insecurities and vulnerabilities, Mia fortified her understanding of their shared humanity. Each confession melded into their narrative, revealing how years of silence had sculpted their identities and perceptions. They unraveled layers of misunderstanding and fear, painting a vivid tapestry of growth and resilience. In that moment, something shifted between them. The heavy silence was replaced with a new understanding, a budding recognition that they could navigate the unknown together. The conversation breathed life into walls that had long felt insurmountable. Mia left her father's home that evening not just as his daughter, but as someone who had laid the foundation for a potential partnership, a desire to forge ahead as co-authors of their story rather than prisoners of the past. Suddenly, the future shimmered before her, full of promise. Days turned into weeks, and with each subsequent meeting, they continued to peel away layers. They explored fears and dreams alike, solidifying their connection while reconstructing distinct identities. Mia's professional life echoed this transformation. She had initiated vulnerability in her workplace as well, advocating for deeper connections with her colleagues and clients, crafting campaigns that emphasized transparency. One day, as she sat in a strategy meeting, her team brainstormed ideas about an upcoming campaign. Inspired by her ongoing journey, Mia proposed a shift in approach, a partnership with a local charity that focused on open dialogues about financial literacy and emotional health. Let us connect on a deeper level, she urged, her enthusiasm contagious. It'll create trust that transcends just business, it'll form a community. Jenna looked at her, pride written across her face. You've become a leader in advocating for authenticity, Mia. That idea is brilliant. This was it, she was no longer a hidden heiress, merely surviving behind her father's shadow. She was a woman empowered by her choices, taking ownership of her promising future, where vulnerability had become a strength. And as she stood there, feeling the tide of transformation wash over her both personally and professionally, Mia Thompson knew she was no longer defined by expectations. She had conquered her fears and paved the way for a life filled with both responsibility and opportunity, ready to pursue dreams that align with her core values. Her relationship with her father, now grounded in openness and understanding, had rekindled a connection nurtured in authenticity, resilience, and mutual respect. Together, they faced challenges and celebrated victories, no longer molded by legacy but by choice, a narrative she would continue to shape, step by fervent step. The future was calling, and Mia was ready to answer. Don't wait even one more second. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment with your reactions and theories about Mia's incredible journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion about overcoming the odds. You need to show your support now.